Hare. A race no one should take seriously. A child's bedtime fable. We think absurd, harmless, a lesson scribbled in the margin of a school book. But what if this story was never for children at all? What if the dust of that race still clings to us, carrying a secret older than pyramids, older than kings? Hidden inside this contest is not a moral about patience. It is a trial one whispered across centuries. Who walks in step with time itself, and who is doomed to sprint, stumble, and vanish. Journey with me, darklings, into the forgotten meaning of the race between the tortoise and the hare. Once upon a time, there was a hare. Swift as lightning, proud of his speed, his paws drummed. One day they quarreled. The hare mocked the tortoise, laughing at his slowness, boasting that no creature under heaven could outrun him. The tortoise, calm and unshaken, offered a challenge, a race. A contest. The course was set. At the signal, the hare leapt forward in a blur of dust, his shadow vanishing into the distance. Behind him, the tortoise moved one heavy step, then another, the silence of his pace echoing louder than the hare's thunder. But speed is not strength. The hare, giddy with victory, turned aside to rest. The sun was warm, the grass soft, and his pride lulled him into sleep. The tortoise, steady and relentless, pressed onward. Hours passed. Shadows lengthened. The dust of the road settled, and still he climbed toward the finish. When the hare awoke, he bolted swift once more, but too late. The tortoise had crossed the line. And so the crowd proclaimed the impossible truth. The slow had defeated the swift. The patient had overcome the proud. We remember the fable as a lesson for children. Slow and steady wins the race. But listen closely, because inside this absurd contest, older echoes stir. For across the world, in tales and rituals far older than Aesop, the same trial returns, a hidden race, a secret contest proving who belongs to time and who belongs to eternity. We think of the race between tortoise and hare as a parable unique to Aesop. But listen closely, because across cultures, the same contest emerges. Disguised in different masks, yet always asking the same question: what triumphs in the end? Speed or endurance? In India, within the ancient Panchatantra, countless fables turn not on strength, but on cunning, on steady patience. One tale tells of a slow-witted bird who defeats a faster predator, not through swiftness, but through unwavering persistence. These stories were not for amusement. They were political mirrors teaching young princes that rash ambition would falter, but slow planning could rule kingdoms. In China, the proverb echoes, "Yu su zebu da," those who hurry cannot arrive. The image of the rushing man, tripping while the patient walker endures, became part of statecraft itself, cited by mandarins and philosophers to warn emperors against the arrogance of haste. The hare's sleep lives here, transformed into the folly of rulers who move too fast, too certain. In the north, among Norse myths, Loki himself once boasted of his swiftness. He raced against a figure who seemed ordinary, a maiden slight and frail. But she was no mortal. She was thought itself. However quick Loki ran, he could never outrun the mind. Speed of body was nothing beside endurance of spirit. Again, the same riddle: the swift is defeated by what moves slowly, invisibly, but without rest. And in the Mediterranean, echoes whisper from Greek legend. Achilles, the fastest of men, could slay any foe. Yet he was undone not by speed, but by his single weakness, his heel. Meanwhile, the slow, heavy tortoise appeared even in philosophical paradox. Zeno's riddle, where the hare can never overtake the tortoise, for speed collapses before the infinity of patience. Was this merely a puzzle or an ancient memory that the hare always loses to time? Across continents, the pattern repeats. In India, China, the north, and Greece, the story returns in new disguises. The slow defeats the swift. The patient unmasks the proud. And always the race is more than a race. It is a hidden trial proving who belongs to the fleeting and who endures with the eternal. Legends echo across cultures. Its soil does not lie. And when we turn from myth to earth, the tortoise is waiting for us. tortoise, etched in bone, carved in shell, preserved for thousands of years. Archaeologists digging in the ruins of the Shang dynasty in China uncovered something strange. Fragments of tortoise shells cracked by fire, etched with characters the earliest Chinese writing. These were the oracle bones used for divination 3,000 years ago. The king's questions of war, of harvest, of sacrifice were inscribed on the shell. Then heat was applied, the cracks interpreted as the voice of the ancestors. The tortoise was not merely an animal. It was a doorway to truth, a vessel through which eternity spoke. And the tortoise appears again, this time in the Heitu and Luoshu diagrams, the mysterious river charts of ancient China. They say a giant tortoise rose from the Yellow River, its back marked with sacred patterns of black and white. Those markings became the Luoshu square, the numerical foundation of Chinese cosmology. The shell was not just armor. It was the cosmos itself, the heavens mapped onto the curved back of a creature that never hurried, never died. Travel further back, and we find the tortoise in Mesopotamia, scratched into tablets from Ur, invoked in incantations. In Sumerian hymns, the tortoise was linked to the foundations of the earth, patient, immovable, bearing the world's weight. In India, the Kurma avatar of Vishnu took the form of a great turtle supporting the churning of the cosmic ocean, the pivot on which creation itself turned. Across continents, the slow creature with the heavy shell became the axis of time, the hidden spine of the universe. And biology agrees. The tortoise is among the longest-lived of all animals. Some have walked the earth for more than 2 centuries, carrying on their backs the memories of vanished generations. Their hearts beat slow. Their blood cools to the pace of stone. They endure where faster, brighter lives burn out. If the hare is the spark, the tortoise is the ember that refuses to die. Science whispers what myth already knew: slowness is not weakness, but survival. Even in the Mediterranean, the tortoise left its mark. In Greece, its shell was strung with sinew to create the first lyres instruments of the gods. The music of Apollo was born from the body of the tortoise, as though time itself had been hollowed, strung, and taught to sing. In Rome, the tortoise was the emblem of the legion's testudo formation, an army shield wall, slow but invincible, advancing with the patience of stone. And while the tortoise embodies eternity, the hare belongs to the fleeting. In ancient Egypt, hares were drawn as symbols of the moon, quick vanishing, reborn each month. Swift in reproduction, fragile in death, they were linked to cycles, not to permanence. In European folklore, the hare was a witch's familiar, darting through fields only to vanish at dawn. Where the tortoise is the map of the cosmos, the hare is a flicker of shadow on the grass, gone before you can grasp it. So the science and the soil converge. The tortoise has always been more than an animal. Its shell was an oracle, its back, the sky, its body, the foundation of worlds. The hare was always more than an animal, too, but a symbol of fleeting speed, of cycles of vanity. And when they are placed together in a race, the outcome was never about who crossed the line first. It was a trial, a hidden test older than Aesop, older than kings. Because in myth and archaeology alike, the tortoise endures. The hare exhausts. The slow outlives the swift. And the lesson, whispered from shells, from bones, from stones, is always the same: time belongs not to the fast, but to the eternal. The soil has shown us the shell and the bone. But the symbols speak even louder, because the tortoise and the hare were never only animals. They were masks worn by forces older than myth, older than kings. The tortoise has always carried more than a shell. Upon its back, cultures saw the heavens. The constellations were imagined as markings upon its armor. The round dome of the sky curving over the earth like the tortoise's shell. To move slowly was to move in rhythm with the cosmos itself. Its patience was not laziness, it was alignment. The tortoise does not resist time, it becomes time. The hare, by contrast, has always been tied to swiftness, hunger, and desire. In European folklore, It was the trickster vanishing in a flash, seen in the corner of the field, and then gone. Its rapid breeding made it a symbol of lust, of the body's urgency of cycles that repeat but never endure. Where the tortoise was eternity, the hare was appetite. Where the tortoise stood for the cosmos, the hare embodied the flesh. And then there is the road itself, the line drawn between them. We imagine it as a mere path through the woods. But in the old language of symbols, every road is more than a journey. A road is a trial, a boundary between worlds, a threshold where truth is revealed. When the tortoise and the hare run, they do not run for sport. They run a ritual. The finish line is a veil. To cross it is to be unmasked, swift vanity exposed, slow eternity revealed. This is why the story has such power. Because it is not about winning. It is about unveiling. The hare, with all his speed, unmasks himself by sleeping. His pride is laid bare. The tortoise, with his endless patience, unmasks himself as something more than animal. He is the one who endures, who does not falter, who rises with the sun and continues with the stars. The slow creature becomes a symbol of the eternal triumphing, not because of strength, but because of alignment with the hidden order of the world. Notice how the pattern mirrors other trials. Arthur's sword in the stone, Cinderella's slipper, the princess's sleepless bed. Always the same, a test that looks absurd, childish, even meaningless. But the absurdity is a mask. Behind it lies the deepest ordeal of all, the separation of the mortal from the divine. The tortoise and the hare belong to this family. The race is not a fable, it is an initiation. And perhaps the strangest symbol is this: the hare animal of the moon fades and returns bound to cycles of birth and death. The tortoise animal of the earth lives beyond generations, steady, enduring, unbroken. Together they mark the line between what is fleeting and what is eternal. One burns quickly, one glows forever. One mocks, the other waits. So when we retell the story as a child's lesson, slow and steady wins the race. We strip it of its true weight. This was never about good manners. It was a ritual reminder that the hasty, the proud, the restless belong to dust. And the slow, the patient, the aligned belong to time itself. And this is where the story turns darklings. Because if the tortoise is eternity and the hare is vanity, then the question is no longer who wins the race. The question is which one of them lives inside us. Are we sprinting toward exhaustion or stepping in rhythm with the eternal? So which one lives inside us, darklings, the hare or the tortoise? We live in an age that worships the hare. Speed is our religion. We measure our lives in notifications, in deadlines, in the seconds it takes to scroll. We praise acceleration, efficiency, instant gratification. We build machines to outrun time itself and then complain that time devours us. Like the hare, we sprint, we boast, and then we collapse in exhaustion. But the tortoise waits. His lesson is still here, though we have forgotten it. He tells us that slowness is not failure. Slowness is survival. To endure, to walk steadily while others burn themselves out, is the closest thing we have to eternity. The tortoise is not slow because he cannot be fast. He is slow because he has aligned himself with the rhythm of the cosmos, the heartbeat of the world. Look around. The pride of speed is everywhere. Our economies demand endless growth. Our culture glorifies youth, novelty, immediacy. But like the hare, this is a sleep disguised as triumph. While we run faster, we lose sight of where we are going. And when the finish line appears, it is always too late. The tortoise asks another path. He reminds us that patience is not weakness, but wisdom. That the race is not against others, it is against time itself. And the only way to win is not to outrun, but to outlast. To walk with time instead of against it. Perhaps that is why so many myths mark endurance as divine. Odin hanging 9 nights on Yggdrasil. The disciples failing to stay awake with Christ in Gethsemane. Gilgamesh falling asleep when he was asked to remain wakeful. The chosen endure. The ordinary fail. Always the same test: who can remain, who can resist the collapse into sleep, into exhaustion, into death. And so the tortoise is more than an animal. He is the shape of our choice. To live as the hare, fast and proud, brilliant but gone in a flash. Or to live as the tortoise, steady, enduring, carrying the weight of years until we cross the finish line, not with speed but with permanence. So I ask you, when you hear the tale of the tortoise and the hare, do you hear a children's story? Or do you hear the oldest question of all? Will you burn bright and vanish, or will you endure step by step with eternity? And so Darkling's The Race was never only a race. It was the oldest ordeal, hiding in plain sight, the line between what vanishes and what endures. The hare burns, the tortoise abides. One collapses into dust, the other carries the cosmos on his back. But this is only one mask. Across the world, other tales conceal the same trial. Another story, one you think you know, whispers of pride that soared too high, of wings that melted in the sun. The fate of Icarus is not a Greek tragedy alone. It is the echo of the hare sprinting into ruin. Click here to follow me into that flight. For only when we trace these echoes, hare to tortoise, boy to sun, can we see the oldest law of all. That speed dazzles, but only endurance survives.